The timetable demands that there must be something ready for President Mitterrand to open on this site before his term of office is over. In other words, in just 3 years, when the new British Library, which has been 25 years in development, is due to open.
La seule question valable, c'est qu'est-ce qu'un grand bâtiment public de 300 000 m² dans une ville aujourd'hui? Ça, c'est, à mon avis, la première vraie question. Ensuite, si on dit ce bâtiment public, c'est une bibliothèque, on va se mettre au travail pour donner à ce bâtiment public l'identité, le sens et l'expression d'une bibliothèque. Mais si on part de l'étagère, c'est sûr, on ne fera jamais un grand bâtiment pour une des plus importantes capitales du monde.
The French start with an idea, they move to a project, and then they look for a rationale for it, and that's where they are at the moment. We really proceed the other way. We start with a need, we move to an idea, and then we work out a project.
British people, unfortunately, for them, never had Descartes, so they are basically empirical. So they had a problem, and they found a solution. It took them 25 years, I think. They were not terribly interested in aesthetic. They wanted some functional building, and now they've got it. It has attracted some criticism from Prince Charles. Cannot judge, of course, with such a highness, but okay, I think now you have a good project.
The shelves of the Library of Babel register all the possible combinations of the orthographical symbols. In other words, all that it is given to express in all languages. Everything. The minutely detailed history of the future, the archangel's autobiographies, the faithful catalogue of the library, thousands and thousands of false catalogues, the demonstration of the fallacy of those catalogues, the demonstration of the fallacy of the true catalogue, the Gnostic Gospel of Basilides, the commentary on that Gospel, the commentary on the commentary on that Gospel, the true story of your death, the translation of every book in all languages, the interpolations of every book in all books.
Borget's vision of an infinite library is nearly upon us. Information technology has brought a level of cataloguing, searching and access that is turning the library from a collection of books into a boundless storehouse of text. The new British Library is less a monument than a mass storage and retrieval device. And it is not only what is stored that is changing, but how we read it. Text itself is becoming more fluid, less book-bound.
There's a curious combination of practical scientific developments, such as word processing, is the obvious one we all think of, which means that there is no final text. I mean, at what point does my word processor developed idea suddenly become text? Well, it never does, really, or it always is from the first word that I put down on the page. So, in a sense, these developments and these thoughts and these ideas that we've already had in our minds are beginning to see a reflection in a building which is actually designed with that sort of use in mind.
You're saying that the role of the printed word is really changing?
Very much so, yes. The idea now of hard copy, of a manuscript being this unique item that we revere, that will never go away in terms of the early manuscripts that we have, and those treasures, those early documents which we find so fascinating and so curious are never going to go away. But at the same time, the material that we generate today is generated in a very different way. It has not necessarily any beginning and an end. It may be that when I do my research, I'm not necessarily interested in reading the whole of a particular text. I actually only want certain parts of it, and I may not need to go to the whole of that text in order to find it. I only need to access that particular bit of it that I want. So that idea of some kind of tangible whole, which relates to, if you like, a complete idea of knowledge, is something which has gone now.
Reluctantly, even the traditionalists are beginning to recognize that technology is changing the nature of text.
Personally, I'm a man of the past, you know, been linked with past culture. But and of course, the image of the future is the scholar like some pilot of a 747 with, on the left side, the screen for reading the book, on the right side, the word processor.
The Bibliothèque de Paris, a video library specializing in material about all aspects of the capital, is an attempt to test out what the technology can do. Rather than ask to see a particular video, visitors type in the subject areas they are interested in at a terminal. A robot selects the appropriate tapes from a bank stored in another room and sends the pictures back to the terminal. The tapes happen to be stored in the same building, but could be in a different country. The viewers need to know nothing about what the library contains. All they need to know is what they want to see. The same principle could apply to any media, books as much as videos.
Marshall McLuhan made the very interesting point that our minds are not psychologically fixed, but they are the product of our media, that the book produces a certain sort of mind. Before the printed book, with a more oral culture, there was perhaps more opportunity for a certain sort of fluidity. When books were actually written longhand with the old tradition of Talmudic scholarship with its exegeses, there was a sense in which what produced in the margins and what was produced in the text interacted to produce something that was organically developing all the time. By contrast, the printed book is relatively frozen. Now that we're getting beyond exclusive reliance upon the printed book, perhaps we'll be able to pick and choose in a more subjective, but also in a more active way, precisely what sorts of information resources suit our own individual needs at particular points in time.
The library is becoming a pure information resource that readers can tap into wherever there is a terminal, photocopier, telephone or fax. Technology threatens to take it from the physical realm altogether, leaving behind what increasingly looks like an empty shell.
This library will be maybe the last of the old kind of libraries. From the Alexandrian library to the new Bibliothèque de France, it's a continuity. The philosophy of these libraries is to collect, to keep, and to communicate documents, the very documents themselves. But in the 21st century and further, there will be no need to have the very documents in one's hands, but it will be possible to consult them on a screen or in a microform. So we are between two periods, two civilizations.
But when the sum of human knowledge is little more than a calculation on a computer, what sort of civilization is left for the library to symbolize? The civilization left behind, according to the Egyptian government. Their vision, expensively packaged in a promotional video, is to mark the end of the age of the great universal library by rebuilding the one that began it.
Over 2,000 years ago, the Library of Alexandria was a meeting place for all the great thinkers and scholars of the time, who came to this intellectual haven to teach, to learn, to create. But somehow this grand design did not survive. Whatever the reasons for its disappearance, the fact remains that the Egyptian government, UNESCO, and the UNDP wish to rebuild the Library of Alexandria, a lighthouse for all those who venture along the paths of knowledge.